Hi, welcome back to our channel. Tonight we are going to be talking about X. But before we do that, please like and subscribe and
And
follow us. Subscribe, yes. Follow us.
okay, and also I want to start doing a movie question, which I'll ask my sister at the beginning of the episode or our reel, and see if she can answer it by the end of the without looking at her phone. The question
Oh no.
today is how many how many sequels has there been after Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Or how many spinoffs from Texas Chainsaw Massacre have there been?
Okay.
Since X is
Like,
kind of related to it.
like related to it and
No,
spin-offs
just the
and
actual title. Actually, the title. They have actually Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the title.
oh,
How
thank you.
many? How many have
Okay.
there been?
I'll be thinking about it.
Okay.
Got it.
All
Okay.
right. So, so now Genevieve will talk about X, which has taken us a long time to get here.
Yeah.
I had to go back and refresh my memory a little bit about it. It's been a few months since I've seen it.
Well, the reason why is because I like The Walking Dead, and there's a lot of things I like, but I really don't like slasher movies that much. And this was a slasher movie, and so I avoid them. But after a lot of convincing, I finally went back and watched it, and it was fantastic. I mean, it was one of probably, I mean, I'd give it 100%, give it 5 out of 5 stars. I mean, it was an amazing movie. One of my favorite people is in that in the movie, but I don't know his name. But he's in Virgin River. He was the older guy that was with Mia Goth,
The porn
director.
producer.
Yeah, the producer. So love
Director
him.
slash producer, right?
Yeah.
I guess that goes hand in hand in porn. Actor slash producer slash director.
So I actually didn't recognize him at first. He reminded me of Matthew McConaughey a lot, and then I realized it was the guy from Virgin River who's. It's
Oh.
just a very different role for him, so that was surprising. So it was just, first of all, Mia Goth. She's phenomenal. Like I think she's like 30, and where
Is she
has she been?
that old? What, she was in the I can't remember the name of the movie, The Wellspring of Health or something, about the guy who goes to the health resort in Austria or someplace, or Switzerland, and it turns out to be some secret cabal of the freakiness. And she was like a very young. Movie's not that old. She was like a 14-year-old looking girl in the. She might have been much older, but she came across as that age in the movie. So
Yeah.
she's been around a little bit, yeah.
But I feel like she is 30 because the blonde is younger than her. But the blonde looks older to me, but Mia Goth is actually the older actress. So she played the old lady, and she played the young girl, and she's just, her look is so just interesting. And when she was staring at herself in the mirror, I was like, if I looked like her, I'd stare at myself in the mirror too. She's just beautiful. And I don't know if her freckles right here or if that's natural or if they put it in for the movie, but I loved it. I love that about her. Loved that that look. I don't know, again, if that's like her natural, those are her natural freckles.
I've seen her interviewed, and I don't remember seeing that, so maybe it was put in as it, which is an interesting, very creative extra touch, right? If that's true.
Right. Because she's so recognizable at the very end when they have the little thing that happens at the end, where we realize it's the priest's daughter or the preacher's daughter throughout the entire film. It was very violent, though. It was a lot more violent than Barbarian. I had to look away many, many times because it was.
You missed the best part of the movie.
And yeah, but that's why I don't like slasher movies. But see, I can handle The Walking Dead. And also,
because zombies aren't real.
Yeah, exactly.
They're already dead.
That's about me. But I have this unnatural fear. I live in California of crocodiles and alligators, which is why I will never move to a place that happens. And then that scene, horrifying.
I like the way they put that in there. It was just kind of out of,
Yeah. but visually it was just so interesting to watch. And the music, I loved the music, like I love the soundtrack. I just loved everything about it. It was just a really fun movie, and I actually went back to rewatch it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but just because it was so interesting to watch. I thought the direction was just wonderful, and despite the fact that I hate slasher films, I thought this was like the best one I've seen. For
Yeah,
me.
he took Ty West as the director, and the movie I liked that I saw was in the Valley of Violence. He did with Travolta, John Travolta, Ethan Hawke, and big stars, and Karen Gillian, you know, the girl from the Doctor Who, who's in a lot of movies now, plays in Guardians of the Galaxy as the robot girl or whatever she is,
Yep.
and the sister. And anyway, he did a fantastic job of recreating the 70s. And now this has already a franchise. I don't know if they started out, decided it's going to be a franchise. I haven't seen Pearl yet, but my daughter has seen Pearl, and she said it was great. So you just get a sense of why she's become such a murderous, person. And then the one they're working on now is Max, and that's already out. You can watch it on Prime, so I'll probably get around to it very soon. And then we'll review that one also. And then they're working on Maxine, XXXX, Maxine, which is 1980. So the Pearl's in 1918, whatever, Texas. I thought they recreated Texas pretty well since I think it was shot in New Zealand. So I think Ty West is from New Zealand actually, but you get a sense, you can't tell. I've lived in Texas. I've been to Texas many times. Our mother's from Texas, so I was born in Texas. So I kind of know Texas a little bit. It could have fooled me. Could have been, it's flat and ugly and, all that. So yeah. So anyway, he recreated that whole 70s kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre look, which came out in 74. I always like to turn, to look at the literary part of movies. And in this case, it still ties into Southern Gothic very well because, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Southern Gothic, it's dark family secrets. You're in a kind of a ruined place, everything's kind of falling apart. It's all classic Southern Gothic or even just Gothic, tropes. It's just a miserable, just not a nice place to be. And then the whole idea of getting old, which is a huge theme, which is a horror story unto itself. I know because I'm getting older, and we took care of our aging parents or helped take care of them, so we know the tragedy and the horror of all that. So
that was the horror. Probably that was the most horrifying part.
That was the horrifying part. And then also, this guy, he used he's a very thoughtful director because he used so many themes from other, from Hollywood from film history, like the idea that you're not supposed to, I think for years, all through the 50s and, and then Hollywood, they said you're not supposed to, it was like a taboo to mix hard sex with hard violence. Right. Hitchcock kind of broke that barrier with Psycho, and the Italians, started making a lot of movies about with which kind of brought that in. But Ty West said, "Hold my beer." He's going to get right to it. He's going to use porn, right? Even in porn, there's it's kind of a taboo to bring violence into porn. Also, to even mix those together. So he's like, well, hold my beer, baby. And let's, let me show you something different. So he kind of explored that whole thing, right?
Very different.
Excuse me?
Very different.
Yeah. And, then the whole thing with the slasher, there's always and I've read this in many books and about slasher films. I'm not a great slasher film buff either. But I do enjoy some of those Italian ones about, that are really well done. And they have a special name, which I can't think of right now. But the whole idea that how, in the mind of the murderer, they mix, sex, it's a sexual thing. Actually, they have that one scene with Pearl having like an orgasm while she's murdering that poor guy. It's Oh, spoiler alert if you have not seen it. So, but that just my little a brief synopsis of that cannot do that scene justice, right? So, anyway, oh, another thing about it is the whole religious thing. How religion shapes the lives, our lives for better or worse. How it shaped Maxine's life and her father's, prosperity message, right? That you find out at the end that what was she used to say? So I deserve better than this. My life is my life, and I deserve better. Suppose that comes from the Bible, from Mark or something like that. And he uses a lot of those little, Bible things in there to emphasize the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
So I believe he wrote the script. I'm not real positive on that because I forgot to look that part up, but I assume he did because he had a pretty strong hold on the material, right? It's very, very tight and and interesting to, like you said, interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And it captured that whole kind of like I don't know if you go back and watch those old early 70s movies. Because first there was Psycho, they kind of broke that little thing, but then the Americans didn't really get into that very much. There were a couple of movies, we could do a whole show on that kind of explored that area, but in general, Psycho was it, and then the Italians really took over from there and started making a lot of these kind of movies. But then Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in '74, and that really opened up the floodgates to this kind of thing. Because then you got Friday the 13th, and you've got Halloween, and just what, and then through the '80s, you got all this stuff, right?
Scream in the '90s. Was it the '90s?
Yeah. Which actually Scream was kind of an interesting film too. It kind of, it kind of went back to this idea of character development and everything, and not just a straight out goon. Well, even though he was a goon with a mask, truly a goon with a mask, right? So I don't know. I haven't seen Scream in a long time, but that's another one that could be worth reviewing, right? Just I haven't even seen the newest remake of Scream, of the reboot, so which actually got pretty good reviews. So, but again, I used to kind of like to go see these things when I was younger, but I've kind of lost interest over the years, So this one, actually, I heard so many good things about it. I go, oh, I have to watch it. So I did, and I go, oh, pleasantly surprised. So, and I'm trying to think of that other director does a lot. Like this guy did Cabin Fever too, also. Which, did you ever see Cabin Fever with Eli Roth, the director? That's a good one. It's not a slasher film though. It's more, I don't know how it's more related to COVID, it was made long before COVID though. About these people who get infected with something in this cabin. That's and I don't know what Cabin Fever 2. If this guy directed it, maybe Cabin Fever 2 is a good one too. I have to go back and look at that one too. So anyway, anything else about X? I thought it was a fabulous movie. We both gave it. I'm gonna go with 95% because how can you be perfect?
Well,
pretty
perfect,
right? It's. The acting was great. Mia Goth was fantastic. It's amazing how she could do both those parts.
Right.
Looking forward to seeing Pearl and Maxine both when I get around to it. So
it was a little difficult to watch the old people do things.
Well, oh yeah, that was pretty good. That was another part of the horror story. Truly horrific. And they kept referring to her backstory. So they had already and if this movie hadn't been a success, would gone on and done the backstory as in the movie Pearl? Ashley, my daughter, she says it's better than X. So, in its own way, even though it's still a horror movie, she's still a murderous. No, I shouldn't say it. A murderous person.
How did they do that though? If it's played by the same person, then it has to be played by a different person. Then probably the actress that's playing.
No, Mia Goth plays Pearl.
No, I know she does, but in
In the movie
movie.
Pearl,
She does.
she plays Pearl, yeah.
Then how do they explain? I'm gonna have to watch it because then how do they explain that she looks like the porn star girl, Maxine?
I don't know. It's a movie. Who cares?
I-
You suspension of disbelief, right? It's just you go to a theater and watch people dance. Right? It's like what did Hitchcock say? He said that he was making this movie Lifeboat, which is a very good movie about these guys stuck in this lifeboat during World War II. And it's just the whole movie is just them in the boat, and he kept saying, and so he worked with the guy who's writing the music, and he says, "There's no music in the middle." Hitchcock says, "There's no music in the middle of the ocean." He was fighting the idea of having music, right? And
Yeah.
the guy goes, "Well, there's no camera either in the middle of the ocean." Touche, right? So I don't know what the point of that whole story is. Is this that you got to suspend your disbelief when you're watching, any kind of theatrical production. I think we're more hard on books than we are movies, right? You read a book and you go, "How? This is just insane." But in a movie, you kind of like take it with a grain of salt, as long as you're entertained. Now, that's the sole sin of a movie is that it's boring and not entertaining, right?
Mhm.
So,
Precisely.
right.
And this was very entertaining. It wasn't boring. And
Right.
I really
Well,
liked
and
it.
it's also, again, like with Nope, he was talking about exploitation. Porn is like the ultimate exploitation type thing, and so is slasher movies. Both of those two are like the ultimate in exploitation, right? You just want to go watch somebody get killed, or you want to see someone get, I'm not going to say it, the other, right? And so he combined both of them together. It says, why beat around the bush here, right? So it was a thought provoking and to a certain extent philosophical type film in a lot of ways. It was very very he took the genre and actually, like I always say, added some meat to it, right? And made it.
I mean, Pearl just want to be loved. She just want to be loved.
Like
Really.
all of us. And I think that's
all.
from what I understand, that's the theme of the first one.
But did she have to murder the guy? I mean, does she have to like kill them all? I mean,
well,
come on.
she's already a murderer. She's been doing this for years and years. Remember the husband's been covering up for her.
Right.
Remember the Volkswagen? I think it was a Volkswagen, and the chain body in the basement. Anyway, Pearl, you get to find all this stuff out. And it's supposedly she's like a neglected flapper or a dance hall or dance. She wanted to be a dancer and she got rejected. That really pissed her off, right? Because she doesn't want to stay on the damn farm taking care of her parents, right?
Mhm.
So it's completely plausible character study, I think, even though a bit on the manic side. Oh, and I guess she's a sadist. So at heart. Well, you'll find that out in Pearl if you watch it. I just kind of read a synopsis of Pearl, and so yeah, that's definitely you'll get to understand her better in that movie than in this one. And I guess in the 80s one, we'll understand Maxine better.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's great that he was able to put all these films together. So anyway, anything else before we end it?
We'll answer the question from the beginning.
Do you have an answer? What do you think?
I'm going to say 6.
Oh, very close. 9.
Ah.
I'm sure there'll be a 10 coming up. And the interesting part is one of our cousins, Stephen Waters, was actually in, supposedly, I think they say it's the scariest Texas Chainsaw is the one made in 2003 or 2006. And like I said, I maybe seen 2 of those sequels in my life, but our cousin has actually been in a couple of those, murdered by Leatherface and all that stuff. So down in Louisiana. So anyway, we have a little Texas Chainsaw connection, but 9 Texas Chainsaw. So before we go, smash the button, swipe, and help us out. And we're looking for more viewers out there, and we'll try to get off the air now. Thank you, Internet.